PBMs are robbing you day in and day out, making you work for below-cost reimbursements. Billion-dollar corporations hurting hard-working independent pharmacy owners as they line their pockets and put so many of you out of business. And now it's happening with so many pharmacy software vendors that have sold out to billion-dollar hedge funds. Are you truly happy with your pharmacy software vendor? Is support what it used to be, or you find yourself waiting on hold? Are your issues resolved in a timely fashion? When is the last time you took a look at the bill from your pharmacy software vendor? Perhaps it's time for a change. Visit our website at www.datascanpharmacy.com and give us a call at 1-877-222-7979.
It's the podcast that shakes and stirs up pharmacy. Welcome to PBM on the Rocks.
So this is the North Carolina episode, and why we are calling it that, Jeremy, is because why?
We are going to talk about the great legislation that is in North Carolina and the other legislation which fucking sucks in North Carolina. That's why.
Okay. That is such a really good answer. I was going to say because of the two incredibly high-powered individuals from North Carolina that are joining us on the panel tonight.
Yeah.
That's good too.
There's that too.
Thank you.
Yeah. Legislation. But check these people out. They're up to so much good in the world. And that's really what we want to talk about. So what is the legislation?
So we got House Bill 163 going through the House right now. It's coming up for a final vote, I do believe, in the next week. It's going to be tying pricing to NADAC plus a dispensing fee. And it's been hilarious to see the PBMs try to spin it as a tax. I've had patients that I've known for years come in and tell me how they called their congressman to support this bill, or actually to go against the bill, because they thought it was going to be a tax and hurt me. And after I explained it to them, and they just had no idea. And it just shows how deceptive they can be.
Oh, yeah. That's a fun thing that they pull out of their playbooks literally everywhere is this is a tax. It's a tax. It's going to be a fee on everyone. You're going to have to pay this. And it's like, shut the fuck up. Like that. Number one, it's incredibly misleading to call it that. Number two, they're the ones always going on about premiums getting raised if something happens, and they're the ones doing it all the time.
Exactly.
So they like to have their cake and eat it too whenever it comes to these things. And really, we're just asking to, fill a prescription and get enough to, get it out the door. There's not even any fucking profit involved. It's dispensing fee plus NADAC. We're not asking for much, just like to not lose money.
No, we can't do that.
No, Lord forbid. Everyone else can get paid. Never the pharmacist whose actual money goes into buying that inventory. Fuck us. Yeah.
Take your 20 cents and quit complaining.
Yeah, take your 20 cents, sir.
Well, that's what we were, at least I was taught in pharmacy school by so many of the academic folks that they've never had to meet payroll. They've never had to pay a light bill, pay their mortgage, pay their rent.
Stephen, MTMs are going to do all that for us. Yeah, okay, that is the future.
Yeah, and that's what was going to save everybody by spending an exorbitant amount of time to make $10 per patient. Years ago, and I'm the oldest one on the panel. It was just so many of the academic folks were so, in my opinion, just desperate to get pharmacists and the community pharmacy to be able to be on the same playing field as physicians and so forth, that basically we were just taught to just give it away so we can, we can be on equal status with a provider. They forgot about the business aspect of it. Business was never taught in pharmacy school. It was an elective. And they didn't care. They didn't care that it was, this is a business. We're not running the Red Cross, and the Red Cross is a great organization. I'm not knocking them. I'm just using that as an example. We're not running the United Way. it's just, we've got to make a profit to continue to survive. And this legislation, especially House Bill 163 that Wes and I have advocated for in committee, which it's passed. And as to what he said, it's going, I think it's next Tuesday, sometime in the afternoon is when it's slated to get on the floor. And I expect that it will pass with resounding success.
Nice.
So it's the fun part.
That's great.
Yeah. I was looking for the video of your guys' testimony, which was brilliant when it was live. It's not out there anywhere. So.
Well, it was so brief, Wes and I talked afterwards. It was like, it was very nerve wracking from the standpoint of, we had these great, Wes had a tremendous amount of data and numbers and so forth. And he couldn't get in his spiel in 1 minute. That's literally all we had. And I had a more, not so much data driven, speech or testimony, but, you have someone holding a card under your nose, you got 30 seconds left. And I'm like, well, crap. I've got I'm looking on my phone at my notes and having to cut out certain things. If I had 2 minutes, I could have gotten through it, but 1 minute is just not a lot. But it blew through the committee, with resounding success. One PCMA guy, the guy that's always seems to be there. He just got shot right between the eyes.
Yeah. It's just great to see their defeat. Like when you see it on their faces, it's beautiful.
Their beady black
and his mic got cut. On top of that, too, it was great. The whole time he's talking, it's like you can't hear a thing he's saying. So karma's a bitch, as they say.
I want to go back to something Stephen just said, because I think that this is so good. He's actually said a couple of things that were really good, but this is really good, and I think it's a valuable point for people who are listening. So what you just said was that you had a minute and you had so much information, so many facts and figures, which, by the way, guys, I watched your testimony and you both were great. If you were nervous, you didn't come across that way. You were nothing but calm and well-spoken. You really did well. But you're right that you have a minute, maybe two at most. And I think that's why it's so important for all of us in this industry to do the best we can to schedule appointments and schedule them often. Because even when you're sitting in a legislator's office, you'd be lucky if you get maybe more than a half hour. So it really requires having to go back and keep having the conversations, which I realize, is kind of a pain in the ass, but it's how you begin to get them to understand. And I think sometimes, there's a thinking that maybe if I go and I show up and I testify, which is an incredibly brave thing to do, that'll be the place where you can really land a good one. But it doesn't really happen that way. It really happens with the work that goes on before, so that when you come to that moment and you have that minute, you can say sort of like the words for the ages, which you both really did. I was impressed. The reason that it's not out there is because there was a breakdown in the audio on the recording side over there. So if you saw it live, you heard it. Apparently the playback was corrupted, so people won't be able to find that. But
conspiracy. I demand an investigation.
It's the testimonies for, telling a quick story, big, dramatic thing, saying something that's going to rattle the other side that they don't see coming. That's typically kind of what testimony for. When it comes to data and fuller breakdowns, that is usually white papers, some things that are going on behind the scenes that you get circulating beforehand, like Monique was saying. But it's also good if you can manage to drop a bombshell within 1 minute and everyone's on board. But also, that's one reason coordination between people who are talking is important, because you'll be able to cover every single one of your points if you have it laid out, like what each person's going to be talking about and in what order and stuff. You can really game it to your advantage.
Yeah, you can turn 1 to 2 minutes into 6 pretty easy if you coordinate pretty quickly. We've had success with that in Minnesota for sure.
I think Wes and I, we didn't get a chance to really, converse beforehand as to what I was going to say, what he was going to say. But I think between the two, we made a good team as far as, even with no preparation, of him hitting the statistical part of it, and then me coming at it from, doing this for going on 30 years, more of a personal testimony, if you will, that of what I've seen over having my soon to be 21 years on in my store. We hit both sides of it with statistical information, facts, and then, you know, the
community impact where you hit on that. You did really well on that.
You know, so, you know, where it was, you know, this is, you know, impacted our community in this regard, and without making it about my store or Wes's store. You know, this is about the bigger picture. In my opinion, even though we only had 1 minute each, I feel like we did a pretty daggone good job of it.
Yeah. Set it up, knock it down. That's exactly what you do.
I mean, the reality of it, when you see that $0.01 trillion goes through, you know, the big three, it's really shocking whenever you look at it. That's almost 4% of the entire economic output of the United States.
Right.
Yeah.
And they don't want to, you know, look behind the curtain. No, we can't do that. You know, we're going to break the whole system if
that information is proprietary, Wes, and you're a bad person for asking about it.
Yeah.
So terrible.
Why would you even bring that up?
No, you disgust me, sir.
Unbelievable.
No, that's the thing. Is like, we've got to have this proprietary information, because if we don't have it, our competitors will have it, and that's going to undercut us. They're all coordinating through GoodRx anyway. They're price setting. None of that holds up. Nothing that they do holds up anymore. It's time for this farce to be over. Like, it's done. No one believes it anymore. It's time for the lawmakers to, you know, actually fucking pass something on the federal level, and not your little bullshit, ooh, let's realign this or let's do this. No, it's time to fucking do something. If not, there's no more community pharmacies. You think fucking Walgreens is going to be around with private equity in there? They're hemorrhaging money. That's a real estate deal. They're going to be gone.
Yeah.
And then we're getting so underpaid that we're hemorrhaging money. We can only float that for so long. Well, CVS is going to close their stores just so they can continue making money on the PBM side. Yeah. We have to do something right now.
Arkansas. Cheers.
Cheers to Arkansas.
Yeah.
Arkansas.
The death
this is the way, friends. This is the way.
This is the way.
Rite Aid is now filed for, or going to file for bankruptcy for the second time. So
nice. Of course they are. Maybe if they restructure harder, that'll bring up the reimbursements. Like, it's not going to matter. None of it matters until that's addressed.
If only they could sell enough toothpaste on their front end. Maybe that would make it better.
Yes, clearly. Like, they are not selling enough toothpaste, which I cannot believe that argument still gets brought out by the lobbyists. Yes. Like, that's what's so wild is, like, how much of this shit still plays. Like, it's been disproven or whatever. They don't care. They'll just go and they'll say it.
That's because the percentage of the store which is devoted to the high ticket items is way smaller than the percentage of the store that's dedicated to the combination of loss leaders and slightly higher priced margin items like laundry soap and makeup. And they're always like, well, surely with all this square footage, you can be turning a return per square foot of, I don't know, whatever they would say, right? That's part of the problem, which reminds me of something else Stephen said. So I'm going to jump back up on my soapbox, which is my own frustration with the argument about academics and what happens in the schools. You're 100% right. They don't teach business. And what ends up happening is you get these academics who teach business, who've never worked a day of business in their life, or teach some profession that never worked very long in it, if at all. And it all becomes academic and theoretical. You have to have some like footing on the ground in reality to understand why things go the way they go. And the worst case scenario for us, and actually, frankly, for any doctor's offices that might be left if United Health doesn't buy them up on a fire sale, the worst case is going to be there won't be any of us left. And then when someone's sick and they need their medicine and they have to wait 3 days, the country will blow up. And I think we should remember it was the moms who were mad about EpiPen that brought the scandal forward that now introduced the country to PBM. So imagine that on a wider scale if nobody can get their meds.
Right. I'm waiting for them to suggest we put panhandlers in our store. That's a good way to, optimize your space.
Panhandlers? They're going to take all your money.
Never mind.
No. They're our employees. All right, you're gonna get $15 an hour to stand out here and just collect money. Look as pitiful as possible.
No,
you
are
CVS for all the charities.
I should say we'll fill prescriptions for money.
Yeah, that's basically what we're at.
Yeah.
Like, would you please spare like $5 so that we could fill this prescription and actually pay for some of the labor? That's not going to be enough, but we'll stay in business a little longer.
So I'd like some more.
Yeah, it's pitiful.
For
And it's like
$5 for dispensing fee.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the next thing they're going to try to get us to do. It's like, all right, they're as desperate as they're ever going to be. Let's make them wash people's feet. Just full on. People come in, you got to shine their shoes. You got to give them a foot massage. No,
For free.
we don't. We need to go ahead and start taking.
Salons, Jeremy, you can't do
Yes,
that.
exactly. We need to start taking the market share of nail salons. I guarantee if insurance is going to cover or do anything, they're going to try to push us to start taking the market share of something else because they've pushed enough with physicians. They're going to sit around and be like, I bet pharmacists could pull teeth. Fuck, Thurgood, you've got an idea here. We're going to get pharmacists to pull teeth. We're going to take the dentist market share, and they're going to celebrate that motherfucker. And then we'll be sitting in CEs about how to properly pull teeth. None of us want to pull teeth. And they're going to be like, oh, yeah, we'll be able to get them to do it for like $20. What's this shit? I guarantee we can. And we'll get those contracts, and everyone's going to push us to do it. And we'll all flock in to like get dental chairs and start ripping people's teeth out. And before you know it, we're getting $20 cut out of all our prescriptions to make up for the fact that we are now pulling teeth.
And you have to use a $400 United Health pliers to do it.
Yes. Only licensed pliers.
That's the only
I
one.
like your theory. I like where you're going with it, but I think you'd make more money on a powder dip with your
Like a
nails. Or maybe if you learn how to cure a good like gel manicure, I think you'd just probably pull more than you would with pulling teeth, which is kind of gross. I don't know how many people want to look at other people's saliva, but
Yeah.
Do you really want to see other people's feet though and nails? It could be
No.
really bad.
No.
I mean,
I don't want to do half the things.
Specialty for that,
Oh, there you go.
I don't want to do most of the things they're trying to get us to do. Like, I don't got time. Fuck them.
No, I'm really good at what I do. I'd rather get paid to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pharmacy
It's like, does anyone actually still do MTMs anymore?
Why?
No, there's no point.
They're just farming diagnosis codes anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't want to do their dirty work. Fuck them. I hate them.
Mhm.
Like,
Oh,
I'm not trying to do the work of the PBMs.
Yeah.
But hey, back to North Carolina.
Oh, yeah, anyway.
So after this bill is now out of committee, it's going to full vote. And where are we going to be standing after that?
Got to go to the Senate, which is going to be our biggest opposition. It feels like. Feels like there's already some capture there from the insurance players that are in the game, same as it was last year. We had some obstruction from one particular individual in the Senate, and
we did.
We did, and we are hoping that he has come to his senses, but does not seem to be the case so far from the signaling that we've seen. But we're going to keep on fighting that fight.
Yeah, the one that he's co-sponsoring is, basically the bill, it addresses some things that are good, I guess. But then the main thing is basically we're approving a bill to dispense prescriptions and make zero.
Yeah.
It's a nothing burger.
Yeah, it is. It's a bunch of bullshit that other states have implemented, and it resulted in net nothing. Don't get me wrong. There's stuff in there that should be there so that you'll be able to, take a few tactics away, but it doesn't address that underlying problem. That bill reads like all of the quote unquote compromises that everyone ends up with because they know that it can be sidestepped easily. So it's that, considering his loyalties, he thought he was clever, and he introduced or helped introduce a bill that wasn't actually going to do anything. So his dear donors would not get mad at him while he could still claim, see, I'm trying to do something about it. It's a bunch of fucking shit. And it's getting really annoying that lawmakers try to pull this on us. We're not, fucking regular old yokels. We're smart people. We're pharmacists. And we're getting more involved with this stuff. And you can't pull that fucking bullshit out on us anymore and expect us to be like, well, they're trying. We're not going to accept that anymore. We can't.
Well, I think the problem is that we're dealing with something that is a very real need that people don't think about until they actually need it. So, we're constantly on the side of having to raise the flag, having to, signal for how serious what we're dealing with as a nation is in healthcare. And because you're dealing with lawmakers who, if we're being kind, let's just say they have to be generalists on a whole bunch of topics. So they're never going to be specialists. And this is unnecessarily complicated. So it's just easier for them to try to put up some resistance. But my frustration, along with yours, Jeremy, is that there's so much energy expended in putting up a big show for doing nothing. Yep. The whole look, we're doing something. Don't even put your energy in that. Just be straightforward and say no. Just say no. We're not going to do that because we don't understand it and because we don't believe you, or just something, instead of this big song and dance and oh, look, I care. I'm really doing something, when, they're not, because you're right. We are smart people and we can see through that.
This is the most complex industry in the world. And we just happen to understand it. And you can't get overly mad at politicians whenever they don't fully understand it. It's hard to understand. But we've got to start being the experts in the rooms. We can't let the health plans and the PBMs and their lobbyists be seen as the experts in the rooms anymore, because they've abused that trust so much over the years. We've got to be those people.
The politicians have got to somehow understand that we're the experts, and that they are not, when it comes to pharmacy, they're not the smartest ones in the room.
Yes.
So it'd be like, you've got to teach politicians not to rise to the dog whistle of this will raise costs, because the win is always for the PBMs when they can just stop the action. They can just stop it. If they can get a study, if they can get you to say we'll table this till next year, they win. And they never come to the table with facts and figures, not anything meaningful. Whereas you guys do, Jeremy puts out these white papers, which blow my mind, and they're vetted by the best in the industry. So they're good, and it's that walking in and being able to say I know they just said the cost will go up, but here's what our figures show, right? And here's our sources, because you show your work. So
if the cost goes up, it's because they're making it go up. They're choosing that. It's got nothing to do with us. We're just trying to, not lose money.
Are the politicians even wanting to hear, because, they can't hear because their wallet is stuck to their ear from money that's coming in from sources that are against us.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you throw these Benjamins.
Yeah. There's a lot of politicians, they do care and they do want to take it on. There's a lot of issues that come into, party politics, because, hey, if we piss off this industry, are they going to fund the other side? Are they going to do this? So there are a lot of politics involved, especially whenever, you get down and you're on the state level and you've got major health operations operating out of your state, like Andrew has to deal with. There are a lot of interests there, and it's difficult to deal with that. And even the lawmakers who want to do something, their party leadership is going to be like, ho, 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 ho. Do you want us to not have any money for the upcoming elections? No, we can't do that. We can't do this. So it's tough for them. So a lot of times they've got to try to ride this fence and go to the health conglomerates and be like, all right, we need to take care of this issue. What would be acceptable for you all? And they'll be like, well, I guess we can give this thing up. And it's going to be something they know how to completely sidestep. And it's going to look like, this was a compromise. We're giving this up, when it's probably a mechanism in which they already know that they're going to make a ton of money off of, like we see with spread pricing bans.
It'll go into effect in 2029 or 4 years from now. Yeah,
Exactly.
I'm ready to scream about them talking about spread pricing in Medicare Part D right now, because it's like, yeah, go ahead and ban it. See what fucking happens. Like, it needs to be banned, but unless you're following it up with something else, not going to fucking fix anything. Like,
Exactly.
you all are 5 years behind. 5 years fucking behind most of the states right now with trying to get this done. You're not going to do shit, and pharmacies are going to continue to die.
But that's why showing up is so important too, and building those relationships with your legislators. Like, you got to be there. You have to build that relationship with whoever it is, and on either side of the aisle, right? So you need to be their go-to person, their expert in the room, because there's nobody else that's going to do it for you.
Yes.
Right? So,
and Andrew is the expert in Minnesota now. He is a superstar up there.
We're just trying to be there as much as possible, right? And just getting enough conversations, and the more that people can rely on you to know what you're talking about and really trust your opinion, I think is the big thing. And honestly, just showing up, knowing, like, letting them know you're there and watching. And I'm gonna fly to DC and I'm gonna come see you. And I want to know what you're doing. And I might not agree with it, but let's chat about it. You know, I think that's the way. We need to figure that out.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good point too, because it's almost like you have to be the faithful friend to the person who isn't listening to you. You know, if you have to keep going back and keep going back, it's almost like you're on a mission of, I'm trying to save you from yourself. I guess if you want to spin it in a kind way, like, I'm trying to save you from yourself. You don't understand what you don't understand, but I'm here to help you try to understand this stuff.
Do not get back with him, Gail. God damn it, Gail.
Basically, yes. And it can be really disheartening because I always think to myself, how many years have we been doing this, right? What's the definition of insanity? Like, you keep doing the same thing over and over. You keep expecting a different result. And that's all we've been doing. And then sometimes I've tried like the simplest explanation is usually the right explanation, like Occam's razor, right? Like, maybe we could try that. And in the room, they're always like, oh, that's very smart. And then, of course, nothing changes. So it is frustrating to have to keep going back and be that voice of reason and that voice of wisdom. But, I think, Andrew, that is so smart. I'm really glad you said that.
Yeah. I mean, you have to be there to look them in the eye, and they need to tell you why they're not going to do it. Right. So it's a lot harder if you're there in front of them for them to say, hey, I'm not going to support this bill, or I'm not going to help you out in this instance, and here's why. I think that's incredibly important. And I think more people need to show up and do it. It's not something that we're trained in school to do. Like, especially the pharmacists, for some reason, we're kind of programmed almost to just kind of accept what comes to us. But I think the more our backs are getting pushed against the wall, the more we're realizing that if you're not at the table, you're getting eaten. So we're getting there. And I think a lot of other people are paying attention to that as well. And I think we're doing a really good job here at PUTT, and we're going to continue to do it.
Yeah. I mean, take it to them.
We were the ones that raised this issue in the beginning anyway, long before, EpiPen, we were talking about this. And I think it's completely consistent with pharmacists being the most trusted profession. We're always in competition with nurses for good reason, but most trusted profession right here.
And the most abused.
And definitely the most abused. We are easily the most abused profession. And it's important to be there. Sometimes a yes is impossible, which is why you've got to make a no more painful than a yes.
So I'm coming into my 9th year with PUTT, and really proud to see how the entire, just world of independent pharmacy has really shifted and really taken leadership in the healthcare system with the problems. There are more organizations that come to PUTT and ask, how can we do what you did, than have ever done before. And I think that's because of the work of you guys, because, you're out there, you're having the conversations, your backs are up against the wall, and if not now, when, right?
Yeah.
You guys are helping us a lot with that. So we appreciate that.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Wes, you're one of us. It's us.
One of us. Yeah.
Absolutely.
One of us. Google gobble. No, it's pretty great. I'm giving a presentation to a group of docs tomorrow on this kind of thing about, building coalitions and coming together. And I've been doing a lot of work talking to groups like that who they say, man, we got to get it together like pharmacy does. And I always laugh when they say that. I'm like, number one, it took a long time and years of work for us to even get to where it looked like we had a consistent, unified voice. It took a lot. So you all need to start getting going right now and start building your coalitions. Otherwise, it's going to take your profession being in an existential crisis to bring everyone together, and you don't want that.
And Stephen and I are in the ground floor of that right now. We're trying hard, so it's definitely doable if you're seeing guys like us out there doing it. I mean, anybody can do it. So
yeah, and North Carolina is behind, and that's been a frustrating thing. But we're going in the right direction, at least at this point. We've turned the boat, going in the right direction, and we've got some rough waters ahead. But it's, I am encouraged that it's gaining momentum. And at some point, the opposition leaders, especially in the Senate, of this state, I'm hopeful that they will, little by little, begin to see the light that this is better for the citizens of this state, irregardless of their pocketbook. I mean, that's where it should be. They should be concerned with their constituents' health, their well-being, the stuff that all of us as pharmacists are providing and have provided for years and decades. Pretty much a vote against some, these bills is basically just, it should be said that it's a vote for them just padding their wallet. They don't give a damn about the citizens of the state. And that's, in my opinion, that's sort of the way it should be portrayed.
I agree. And that's the thing is, whenever you have a situation, especially like last year, where you've got a bill that is going to pass, and there's one roadblock holding it up, you destroy that roadblock.
Yes.
We don't have time for anything else. You always want to give people the benefit of the doubt, and you always want to keep your bridges intact. You don't want to burn too much. But whenever you've got a roadblock like that, you hit it, and you hit it fucking hard, because there's no time for anything else. And a lot of times you'll have party leadership, they'll take a little heat, especially whenever you've got the party in control of both the governor's mansion and the legislator. So a lot of times party leadership will block something so that the governor isn't forced to veto it if the governor doesn't want that bill to go on their desk because it'll look bad. But if they're going to throw themselves in front of the bus, make sure the bus hits them real goddamn fucking hard, because we don't have time. So this year, if the same bullshit happens, I don't think anyone's going to play nice. And I encourage everyone not to, because I got a feeling that may happen again.
It seemed to work last time. He got irritated, and
yeah, I did.
I hate to say, the not liking the pressure made me want to go harder.
Oh man, yeah, he's really not going to like what happens this year if that happens again.
And that's why educating your patients is so important too in your community, and getting out there. And you need that pressure from people that aren't just pharmacy owners. You need your patients, their base, their constituents. They're the people that they have to answer to, right? So
agreed.
And should listen to if they are truly public servants, elected public servants. They should be listening to the public, not anything else.
What's this witchcraft he's speaking about? Come on, listening to constituents.
Stephen, according to the Supreme Court and the Citizens United ruling, corporations are people too. And they must listen to their constituents, especially the ones that give them so much money.
Right.
When corporations die, I'll believe that.
Yes. That's a thing. North Carolina pharmacists out there, you've got some great minds in North Carolina, like Wes and Stephen. You've got a lot of people out there fighting. Get up and start fighting, because you're running out of time. And you can't trust people to just do it for you. Like there's great people doing it, but they need help. Like they need your voice with them. Like it needs to be a big resounding boom whenever we talk. And the more people that are doing that, the better. Whenever a call to action goes out, spread it all over social media, get your family members to call, like melt phone lines down. That puts more pressure than you think. And also it's really fun to irritate them. Like you go in and you melt their phone lines down. Trust me, the lawmakers are going to hear about it. Be nice, be like, oh, we'd really like you on this bill. You don't want to be mean until it's time to be mean. Right. And whenever it's phone line melting time, that's super nice time. Hey, we just wanted to tell you how important this bill was and how it's going to help save the healthcare infrastructure of North Carolina. Go in, do that, make calls, get your friends to make calls, get your family to make calls. Do these things because they do add up. That's why people ask you to do it.
I mean, I have different approaches to this. So it really works well actually to have Jeremy's strategy because I'm very high level in the way I think. I'm sort of like I look at the overall territory and I'm like, okay, we need to go there and there and there. But if we encountered an obstacle, I'd probably be the first person to be like, well, can't we just go around? Like, well, no, because there's a mountain on this side and a giant canyon on this side. No, we can't just go around, which is why it's good to have Jeremy's strategy of like blow up the obstacle, get it out of the way fast. Don't let anything slow down your momentum.
Right.
My view on things is often like, okay, well, let's take a professional approach. Let's take a consistent kind of approach. And there's room for both. But if you're going to err on the side of anything, I would say probably err on the side of the energy and blowing up the obstacle, because that's likely going to get you moving much faster.
Yeah.
So
we all have our strengths. You need
strategy, but it does work.
Yeah. You need lions. You need rhinos. You need giraffes. You need ostriches. Like everyone's got their own like animal type when it comes to a team, and a good team, you put all those together. You don't need a team full of rhinos or a team full of Jeremys just wrecking the shit out of everything that comes around. That's not a good idea. That's how you definitely get some attention, and it's not going to be great. You get a good team around, and that's how you make good strategies, and that's how you attack these things.
And use your network is the biggest thing too. I mean, you'd be surprised how many people, like even just within our PUTT network, like how many people know people in other states that can tell their relatives to call, right? So that's been a huge thing that we've seen is like, we'll put out calls to action for people in Texas, and people be like, oh, I know this person in Texas, they'll help, and it's like, we wouldn't have thought of that if we wouldn't have all been coming together. And that's been resonating so well. And that's the thing.
Everyone's going to have their own certain connections, and they're all going to have their strengths and their own connections. And before you know it, you're able to put pressure where you didn't think you could put pressure.
Well, the network expands. And to your point, the pressure then expands and gets greater and greater and greater.
Yep. It's amazing how we would just put something out and someone would be like, oh yeah, my Meemaw has lunch with his Meemaw.
Right.
Yeah, we should probably get something together. And before you know it, they're a co-sponsor on Pharmacists Fight Back. Thanks, Meemaw.
Thanks, Mommy.
What kind of pancakes they order?
Yeah, no, it's true. Pharmacists Fight Back is coming back too. For we mentioned that a few times, and for people who are listening who are wondering, whatever happened to Pharmacists Fight Back? I think we've talked about it a few times, but just really want y'all to know that it is coming back. It's going to be a better bill. There's a lot more interest in it. There's some questions about the direction it's going to go. And so that's been part of the holdup, that and it being an altogether new Congress, people in new seats. Buddy Carter is now the chair of the subcommittee on health. And so.
Yeah, and he's a co-sponsor. That should be really easy to bring up, shouldn't
it? It should. It really should. And there's going to be plenty of opportunities to get to see, among other people, Buddy. He's actually going to be the opening act, so to speak, of the NCPA fly-in. But Diana Harshbarger, Jake Auchincloss, James Comer, some of the names that people recognize that were involved with Pharmacists Fight Back are still very much in this conversation about what directions it's going to go. So everyone, as you keep hearing Pharmacists Fight Back being spoken by us, why you keep hearing us say that is because we are plugged into what's going on behind the scenes and with the people who wrote the bill and the people who are currently looking for the avenues to introduce it. And when I say avenues, I mean that specifically because there's conversation about taking portions of it and getting it to committees for whom that portion would be the right jurisdiction for the decision, if that makes sense. So more to come on that.
Yeah. And there's a lot of strategy. There's a lot of committee politics involved. A lot. And the reason that that's happening is because it got such a good push last year. It's not just something that's brought up and, hey, all right, we brought it up. We made a point. No, there's a legitimate shot at it, and they're trying to find the best avenues to do it. And that it takes strategy. And if it would have been easy to just like drop it and introduce it and just like keep pushing, but the fact that it's going to take some strategy means that it is being taken serious. And it's
a better bill. Some portions of it have been strengthened against retaliation. There's some good things, improvements that have been made. So yeah, I mean, not to cut you off, Jeremy. I know I totally just did. I apologize.
No, you're good.
There's some good things that have been happening in the months since it, felt like it slipped off the market. It didn't. It just is now in the process of improving. And as Jeremy says, we're looking at those strategic avenues.
Yeah. And we're done with like first 100 days and a lot of the craziness. So it's finally time to introduce a few things and get attention the way that it should.
Yes.
So tell us, is there optimism in North Carolina? How are we feeling?
Oh, we will know, I guess, when we see the Senate's temperature for it.
Right.
To me, if it's last year is any barometer for it, I am always going to be a hard charger. I have hope, but I'm realist about the prospects of it. But prepping with the right pressure points and the right argument, maybe we can sway some hearts and minds to make this a political thing where they want to bring it up. So
yeah,
cautiously optimistic. I hear you.
Yes,
and that's the thing is, during the fight you make allies. During the fight you make points. During the fight you turn people to your side. So even though we don't have a lot of time anymore, it's important to continue the fight, even if it is full on held up and blocked. You keep swinging. Because if you stop, you think you're just going to get up and start again next year. You can't have that mentality. You got to keep going, because whenever things get tough and you've got a team built around it and you're really pushing something, you're making a lot of relationships with those allies. You're making new allies. You're finding new ways to think about things. You're coming up with new strategies. Fight as hard as you can, because if nothing else, you're going to learn something, and everyone else is too.
Exactly. And to quote Deadpool, it's time for maximum effort. So that's what we need.
Yes. And that's something that I think more pharmacists are starting to understand. We can't just sit back anymore and be nice and everyone love us, be quiet. I was never any of those things, but
no, neither was I.
It's time to fight.
That's good. We can't all be quiet.
Stephen, where are you kind of feeling as far as this bill and what it's going to do for you and your pharmacy and the timeline of implementation?
As far as the House bill that's passed committee, I feel like it's a good bill. As far as I'm assuming that, that it's going, and hopeful that it's going to go ahead and pass, the House unanimously as 246 did last year. As far as what it would do for my pharmacy personally, just what it's proposing is NADAC plus if I'm correct in recalling this, the dispensing fee that's currently being provided by Medicaid, which I think is $10.24. Correct me if I'm wrong, Wes, on that.
10 and change, and I know that for sure.
Yeah. Now, is the dollar amount in the bill, or is it tied to the
no
the survey?
the dollar amount specifically is not, but
good. You don't want that.
Yeah, it says, if I can recall it, it's basically saying NADAC plus no less than, correct me on that, Wes, if than the state Medicaid dispensing rate, current dispensing rate, no less than that.
Okay, good.
So
that's what you wanted. That's what I thought it said whenever it went through.
I think that's right. I mean, that would be, significant, not just for my pharmacy, but, any of the, independents in our state. And as far as implementation time, I don't know, 5 minutes ago would be great. If they could get that going that quickly, but it's not going to happen that fast. And I realize that, and, nothing does in politics, but it would be a substantial win to put North Carolina on the map with some of these other great states that have done. Arkansas comes to mind, just made tremendous headway. My biggest concern with these bills, whether it be the House bill or the Senate bill, who's going to step up and actually enforce this?
Yeah. It's an important question.
They'll ignore the law like they have in other states, but it's also important to have it there so that you can sue the shit out of them.
Our Department of Insurance, basically, from what little I understand, they have no jurisdiction to do anything. They can't regulate Medicaid. They can't regulate any federally sponsored program. Who's truly going to step up when something comes down that the PBMs are egregiously doing in violation of what these bills spell out? Who's going to hold the gun to their head and say, all right, time to pay? And I don't mean monetarily. They've got so much that really means nothing to them.
Yeah.
Kick them out of the state.
There we go.
Yes. Yep. There we go.
Yep. Kick them out of the state, prevent them from coming back for 5 years or whatever. Really hit them hard, not just, we're going to fine them $10 million. That's like me throwing a nickel out the window of my truck. That's not significant to them. The money is not. It needs to be, their access needs to be either severely limited or eliminated altogether.
Yes. They're bad actors. They shouldn't be in it at all.
Yeah,
they are proven bad actors.
Right. The penalties are built into their business model now. So there needs to be some other enforcement mechanism.
They can afford to continue to just ignore and snub their nose at, whatever these states pass. That's already been shown, in other states. They passed legislation. Different PBMs have basically just said, nah, whatever.
Well, that's North Carolina for us right there. They have the bill that passed 3 years ago that the Senate bill now is trying to make enforceable because the PBMs just say, we operate in a different state. We don't have to follow that rule. So that's the whole premise behind it, is they just do what they want to do whenever they want to do it, and we keep letting them do it. It needs to stop.
Yeah, I mean, who's going to enforce it? Attorney General, the Department of Insurance, I don't know. But yeah, there's got to be someone, some department, some individual with significant weight empowered to really spank them bad.
Yeah. And that's another reason we need market solutions. That's another reason we've got to hit it every single way that we can outside of legislation. We're not going to win this battle just, hoping that we get a bill passed, and because then it's actually got to be enforced. And then it's like, okay, it's not being enforced, but we've got this law in the books. Well, we're going to sue them. Well, there's a real problem with trying to get around those arbitration clauses. And there's a real problem trying to actually get to a judge who is not going to just rule in their favor. Like, there's a lot of hurdles, and they have gamed all of it. It's hard to go at them. That's why we got to go after them every single way that we can. And market, if we nail that, it's going to cause the most disruption, because if you go in and you have a market solution and it's going to get the employers to go, oh shit, I've been screwed this whole time. And they're going with their competitors. That is going to really, really be effective. And it doesn't rely on, a bunch of bureaucrats. It doesn't rely on a bunch of people who are supposed to enforce the law that suddenly they have their authority to do their jobs in question because of some of the lawsuits. That is full on employers in the private sector saying, I don't want to use you because you're screwing me.
Yeah, that's going to limit their access. That's going to really hit them harder than fining them millions of dollars or, whatnot. An employer go with a competitor. That's going to wake.
I want to see criminal fraud charges finally stick instead of them paying a settlement. That's what I want to see.
Oh yeah. The settlements mean nothing.
Yeah. They get these settlements and it's for a fraction of what they made, and they still continue operating the way they do.
Sure.
I mean, if they're people, they can die. They get the death penalty. That's the way I look at it. They've killed so many people, taken so much money out of the system. I mean, how much harm can you keep causing?
Exactly. Murder by spreadsheet. These are serial killers in Excel.
And I do think there's something to be said about market-based solutions. It's a good talking point, especially right now at a time in our country when we're very focused on our economy. If anyone were to ask about, well, why aren't you doing more market solutions? There's a whole set of talking points that we have about the barriers to entry that PBMs have erected, because there's a lot of PBMs out there.
Yep.
You would think there's only 4 or 5, because 4 or 5 have 90% of the market, but there's more than 30 of them out there.
Yeah,
and some of them are transparent, and they can't get it. They can't even get on the field to play because the larger ones have made it impossible, right? And that's not supposed to happen. So that's a whole other reason why it's good to have the FTC investigating, not just the monopoly side of things, but why isn't there more competition? Why isn't there more variety in the kind of services that PBMs can offer? Why is it they can only do it this way, right? So we can talk with a lot of knowledge about how we could have more competition and how you could see prices go down and employers would have more choice, and so would patients. Just tell you, man, get us up to the plate. We'll do it.
I'll tell you, one of the best ways to do it is eliminate the Stark exemption, get rid of rebates. You talk about bringing down some prices. You talk about injecting some competition in the entire healthcare industry. That's how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
The holy grail of PBM reform.
Nice.
All right, you all. We're coming to the end of our drinks. Cheers to all of you.
Cheers.
Stephen, Wes, Andrew, Monique, a pleasure to have a drink with you.
Yes, always. Thank you all.
Keep swinging, North Carolina. Keep swinging.
Yes.
We're behind you.
To learn more about Pharmacists United for Truth and Transparency and how you can help fight PBM abuse of our healthcare system, visit our website at truthrx.org.